Of Weber State Weekly softball show. We're a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Colby Peterson. On the show today, we've got Jessica Euler returning fresh off of a graduation ceremony. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a fun day of graduation on Friday. Slipped over to the softball game in between, and then, back there Saturday. So good weekend overall.
Yeah, very good weekend. And I think I love graduation day on campus because, it reminds everybody why we're doing the thing, right? It's it all leads to this, right? So graduation day is just, I don't know, it's just so great seeing people work so hard and being able to walk across the stage and be handed that, even though there's no, spoiler alert, guys, there's no degree when they hand you the little thing. There's nothing in there. They email it to you later. Anyway, so now you guys know, secret's out. But I just love
favorite day of a year, and I love families being there. Today we're like, everybody get your grades in, because tomorrow we start processing. It's just such a fun time. I love this whole time.
Yeah. Also, speaking of schoolwork, we've got the Signpost's own Simon Mortensen. Simon got raising the jersey. Hey, I saw RSL coming to Nashville. I might have to go check that out. Not a big soccer fan, but got to say what's up. But you made it through finals week, man?
I did. Apparently, I have to register for summer classes. And Jessica got me nervous for that now. So, I just keep going through the ring.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Get it
done. After the podcast today, Simon's registering for summer, y'all. Brooke already did it. She's on top of it. Simon is working on it.
She did a great job. Yeah. I only didn't go in the summer one year. I always went summer. So it's totally fun. That's when you get to have some fun. That's when the good classes are. Well, folks, let's talk a little bit about the B-Moe show tonight. We've got, like we noted, we've got a player interview for you. We've got senior utility infielder Brooke Moeai. She's on the show tonight to talk to us a little bit about, she's got an interesting career, interesting stories to tell us tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to be doing the weekend review. We'll talk a little bit about that series against Sac State, which culminated in a Wildcat regular season championship. I mean, guys, wildest dreams. I don't think anybody expected the Wildcats, especially to hold, we'll talk about this, but to hold the Sac State Hornets, we talked about that offense, 4 runs, 1 inning. That's all they scored all weekend. Dynamite. And then we're going to be playing a game. We're going to be playing over-under. And so I've got some stats prepared for our panel here. We'll see if they're risk-averse or if they're willing to take a chance. We'll see if they'll take the over or the under. But before we get into all that, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the show, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all great places to get Weber State Weekly in your ears. We're also on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Been doing some stuff with Instagram lately where and I also added TikTok as well, where we've been trying to do news reels lately. So had a couple of things have happened. So if you want to check out some of the just kind of little news bites, go check us out on Instagram or TikTok. We're putting that news out there. I got another one. A guy committed to Weber State this afternoon, so I need to make the reel for that. But follow us over there if you want to stay up to date on just little news snippets from Weber State Weekly. And then, of course, we've got the website. You go to weberstateweekly.com. There's some content there. You can check it out. As we wind down the season here with softball, I imagine we'll be trying to do some more interesting stuff over there while we wait through the summer and produce some content, maybe some best of, that kind of stuff over there. So check out the website, weberstateweekly.com. And then Patreon, of course, patreon.com/weberstateweekly. Appreciate our patron supporters. And I also want to shout out a supporter of ours, Studio 98. They make really cool rings that aren't super lame and boring. Local jeweler, former Wildcat. I guess he's still a Wildcat. If you ask him, he'll tell you he bleeds purple, man. So check out their website, studio98.com. That's studio, N-I-N-E, and the number 8.com. They got a lot of really interesting rings that they make out of exotic woods. I got the Flying W ring. It's on my finger. Email them about that. I bet you they'll make you one. So thanks, Studio 98, for supporting Weber State Weekly. So, all right, now it's time for the B-Moe show. Brooke Moeai, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly. You had senior day on Saturday. Got to celebrate that. I read your all the seniors. They all got individual write-ups, and I read yours. Really appreciated kind of going through that and reading the stories. Shout out to the Weber State softball SID, the squad up there, taking care of us who want to know more about the players. So, Brooke, talk to us a little bit about, I just kind of want to maybe start out, your feelings on senior day. How are you feeling out there on Saturday?
I felt so happy.
Yeah.
We have such a good environment here at Weber State. I tried not to get emotional, but I ended up not getting emotional, which was good because I'm the biggest crybaby ever. But um, it was a lot of fun. It's kind of weird, like being the center of attention, even though I'm like the heart. You say like
Yeah.
when it's really like on me, I get really weirded. But I loved it. It was fun.
That's great. So, Brooke, I know you're kind of at the end of your Weber State career here. Like we said, you're a senior now. This is your final season in a Wildcat uniform. But I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning because as I read through your bio to kind of prepare for this interview, I was kind of surprised at some of the interesting and cool things that you did back in high school. Things like playing for the Mexico Junior National Junior. How did I write it down in here? Mexico National Juniors team. You got to play against Japan. You got to play for a USA team. You were just like all kinds of like interesting international competition about you. And so talk to us about how did you get involved in some of that stuff and like what was the connection? How does a player like you come to do some of that stuff?
They were just hosting tryouts. Well, my head coach told me about it on our on my club team, and I got to go try out. There was a ton of girls there at the Mexico tryout, but it was for the junior team, and I was 17 at the time. So a lot of us went to go try out, and then I made it, and yeah, it was a 3-day tryout, so it was cool. And then the same weekend that we tried out, we got to play Japan that same weekend. So yeah,
I mean, that sounds intense,
yeah,
like that's all right. 3-day tryout. It's like, hey, it's not like hey, show up for 2 hours and throw the ball and we'll see if we think you're good.
no,
Like,
yeah,
no, they're going to make you do a bunch of stuff. You're going to be here for a couple of days. We're going to play the Japanese team while you're here. Like, this is
yeah.
serious stuff.
hmm they and after their first day, they were already cutting people.
Yeah,
So if you didn't hear your name called, it was kind of like a blow to the heart a little.
sure.
And yeah, I felt bad because after they were calling your name, um, the rest of the girls like had to talk with the other coaches because if your name was called, you were there. You're going the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So then I heard my name called. I kind of celebrated in my head because my other teammates that were there, they weren't called yet. So then I kind of had to walk over, but it was a lot of fun. I got to meet other girls from Mexico too, so that was fun.
Yeah, that's great.
hmm
Um, Simon or Jessica, questions here for B-Moe, Brooke, Moeai?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So you were a 2-time league MVP, 4-time first team recognition. What is it? How did Weber State recruit you? What made you finally commit to Weber State? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Um, it was my junior year, and I didn't even think I was gonna go to college because softball you kind of commit early. Like they go based on years, and I was heading into my senior year, and I was like, no one's gonna want a 2018 anymore. But I was in Colorado when Coach Amacone came to watch one of my games, and yeah, she just fell in love with me, and I actually never heard of Weber State yet at the time. So yeah, my club coach brought me Coach Amacone's card, and then I got to email her back and forth, and she was like, "We want you to come out for a camp. We'd love to have you on campus." And I was like, "Although that sounds great, like of course, I'll go." And then I ended up taking a visit, loved it, got offered, and then history, yeah, is just I'm here now.
And my question I always ask is, what are you majoring in? What do you plan to do next?
I'm majoring in criminal justice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I want to be a police officer with this
Very,
degree.
very
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. So obviously you're a lifelong Wildcat. You've been here since 2019. You're one of the leaders on the team, everything like that. And you guys just barely secured the season title, everything like that. And obviously that was something that you guys did last year. But things didn't go quite as planned in the postseason. Is that something that's kind of a motivating factor this year, and something that you've kind of noticed the difference between how you've celebrated the season title this year as well as last year, and maybe what it means to you now?
Yeah. We definitely have a chip on our shoulder this year. We have such a good conference record, but I don't think right now we're just trying to focus. Like, conference really doesn't mean anything. We're just thinking about the tournament. We're trying to do everything we can in the tournament. And we still have that pain from last year losing in the tournament. So, and on our home field. So it's kind of just, we have something to prove this year, and we're gonna make it count as much as we can.
Definitely awesome.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that this year, about how this is kind of the redeem team, right? That
Yeah.
obviously things didn't go the way the Wildcats had hoped last year, losing to Portland State in the first round and then losing again to Sac State the next day. But I wanted to we talked a little bit about this your kind of journey to Weber State, and when we talk about winning, you were part of that 2019 team, which is I think really a high watermark for the program. You all were able to accomplish not only a lot of really quality out of conference wins, but also winning in the tournament, the first time a Big Sky team had ever done that, after winning not only the regular season championship but also the tournament championship as well. And the thing that I liked about that 2019 season is, of course, you were a part of that, but defensively, you were absolutely phenomenal that year. You had a perfect fielding percentage with 26 putouts that year. 2020 had a 979 percentage with just one error in that short 2020 season. And so Brooke, I was kind of hoping that you could talk to us a little bit about how you became such a good defender. If it was always something that you had done when you were in club and in prep and it kind of just bled in, or if it was something that you really worked on when you got to Weber State. Talk to us a little bit about becoming the defensive player that you are, because I think it's stellar. And I think that folks maybe don't realize, because those two seasons were so long ago, but looking at the numbers, it's like, no, that was a special year.
Thankfully, I was so blessed to grow up with two older sisters that played softball, and one of them did play college softball at UCLA. So I got to grow up around this high standard already with softball. So that really just helped me even more. And then I grew up in club teams that perfected defense, like more disciplined on the field. Running conditioning was a huge part of making me more disciplined defensively. If I made an error, our head coach would just send us down to the pole, so we had to run. But yeah, I grew up with it. I kept working on it day in, day out, every day. Thankfully, my dad's a coach too, so he helped a lot with it. But yeah, just growing up with it helped a lot. I started at a young age, around, I would say, 8 or 9, picking up a ball, throwing the ball every single day, doing ladders every single day, anything I can to move my body around at a young age, and yeah, get the feel of softball, like the game and how it's played, and what can I do to keep growing better in the game at a young age.
Jessica, Simon, more questions for Brooke Moeai?
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
Okay, yeah. I was just gonna say this is one of my favorite questions to ask people in the softball team, and I've asked it a couple times, and nobody's given me like a clear answer yet, because it is a hard question. But the only reason I would ask this one is because of how well you guys have done this season, and all the accomplishments. Texas A&M, 13-1 record, everything like that. And so I always ask the seniors, comparing the two teams, 2019 to 2022, which one are you kind of going towards as far as maybe skill wise, just maybe flow of the team energy, everything like that. Which one do you kind of lean more towards? Is that not something we can answer yet until we get into the NCAA tournament? Or yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what they're saying now. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm gonna say the 2022 team.
There we go.
Yeah.
Is it something that's kind of just like team energy, or just
Yeah.
a team feel to it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I feel like this is one of the best teams I've been on all 4 years here.
Definitely. Yeah. the best team according to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Nice. No, yeah.
Well, and that's saying something, right? Because like we said, Brooke was on that 2019 team, the high water mark, not just for the school, but for the conference as well, to accomplish what they did. And now saying like, no, like guys, I'm telling we watched this team all season. That out of conference schedule was absolutely grueling and tough. I mean, I think everybody on this panel can agree that that was probably the toughest out of conference schedule we have seen for a Wildcat squad. And to come out the way that they did, sweeping the likes of UNLV, going toe to toe with San Diego State. I mean, San Diego State and Utah State, the only Mountain West teams that this Wildcat squad lost to, because Utah State has Devil Magic, which pisses me off. I mean, I don't know if you're a fan of any baseball team that has to play against the St. Louis Cardinals, you know about Devil Magic. Those guys, man, they just. But I mean, this team has just been absolutely phenomenal, and so. Brooke, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about you being the way that I put this in the notes was B-Moe is kind of the glue guy, the heart and soul of the team, and so that comes with it with sort of this natural leadership position, right? Folks look to you. You're a person who can connect with your teammates in a really unique and special way. And so I wanted to ask you if that's something that you've cultivated throughout your career at Weber State, or if it's something that has always been there for you. That even though you were coming in as a freshman, you had some interesting experiences in Southern California, playing like with international squads and playing for really high caliber prep and club squads, and now here you are, a senior at Weber State in one of the best seasons in conference history. Talk to us a little bit about how you've grown into that role as being a leader and kind of the heart and soul of this Wildcat squad.
I don't know. I grew up being that loud and funny person, I guess. And my freshman year was the hardest year of my life. I don't know. I was homesick. I like lost a lot of my family members, that passed away. And I don't know. I feel like those loss that I had my freshman year, it kind of made me an even more grateful person to be at like a D1, a Division One, like to play a Division One. I don't know. It's just our coaches say it best. But there's only 2% in this world that athletes get to do this. Only 2% that get to play Division One college. I think that's something special, and that's really what I remind myself every single day, that I'm the 2% that get to do this every single day. And I don't want to take that ever for granted. Literally, I have like 2 weeks left, maybe even that. And I'm just trying to like make it count as much as I can. I love putting smiles on people's faces, and yeah, I just want to be remembered and be proud of myself, that I have no regret and that I played a good role, whether I'm on the field or off the field, for any team I'm with.
Wise words from a seasoned veteran.
And I just have.
Go ahead, Jessica.
I was just going to say, I just have one last question for you. I mean, it seems awesome that you're the one who ties this team together. It's going to be super fun to see. This is the weekend I think we've all been waiting for when we go to Portland, because they're the defending champions from the tournament. And we really, last year, all felt we should have been the one that hoisted up that conference tournament trophy. So what should fans watch for and be prepared for this weekend?
Oof. I think this weekend everyone should be looking out for our offense. I think this weekend, Olivia Gray, she kind of beat us a little last year, but this year we've really worked on our offense, zoning down, looking for balls in and out, just putting a good swing on the pitch. But this weekend, I hope everyone's looking for our offense, because it's going to come alive.
I hope so, because I think that for me, and we will talk about this in the next segment, that's the biggest question mark. Olivia Gray has shut out some very good teams, and she has
Yeah.
pitched some absolute gems this season. Until last weekend, I mean, she got shelled on Saturday by Idaho State, but up until that point, she led the conference in ERA. If you look at her numbers, they're just absolutely stunning. She's been really good, and so that to me, that's the biggest question mark going in. But good to hear that from you all, that this is something that you all have worked on, and that you too have been kind of looking forward to this, and an opportunity to see her again and see what you can do against a quality pitcher of her caliber, because she's a good one.
Yeah. We're just really trying to focus, like seeing the ball and hitting the ball, not trying to do too much with it, because when we're trying to do too much, we get a little in our heads, especially if we swing and miss. We get, like, oh, she's doing this, she's doing this. No, I think we just need to stay within ourselves a little and just trust all the work we put in all year. We were beating teams preseason that were phenomenal. And, I think this Portland State is like no other team too. They have a pitcher, they put their cleats on the same way we do. And yeah, we're just not trying to do too much. Just go out and focus on what we've been doing all year long, is just staying within ourselves and staying together.
That's great. Simon or Jessica, any parting questions for B-Moe, Brooke Moeai, before we let her go?
I'm trying to think. Do they let you keep some jerseys like after you graduate and everything? Like, I'm just curious. They got to gift you some things, right?
Yeah. They gave us a framed jersey and a nice picture of us hitting or catching or whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no. I've always wanted to know. Like, I'm like, what are the departing gifts? I gotta see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, and flowers too.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Jessica,
just one last question. What is your favorite moment in your softball experience over these last few years?
I would honestly have to say this last Saturday when we walked it off, and Faith. So before that, Faith hit the ball into her knee.
Yeah.
And it was very painful, and she took a minute. And she actually told me, I didn't realize I had 2 strikes after she hit that ball. And I'm like, but you did it. It's okay. But anyways, I knew she was going to do it. We just needed to push 1 run, and she did it. But it was on senior day. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm going to remember that forever. And we swept them. Oh. Yeah, overall, just a great memory I'm going to have for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so many things happening right there, right? Like you said, a run rule game to get the sweep, to win the conference regular season championship, and make sure that, I think it's a gift that you all are giving the next year's team by saying, hey, you get a host again next year because you take care of business.
Right.
Like, it's a gift that you've given, the future team. And like you said, I mean, I'm a Brewers fan. I remember when Christian Yelich hit a ball right off his kneecap, and he hasn't been the same since then. So for Faith to go back in the box and say, all right, I'm going to just hit this little flare, get this bloop single off in just past the defender and push 1 run to get the dub, the walk-off. Like, what a moment for you all in the dugout. Must have just been incredible.
Oh, yeah, it was exhilarating. On senior day, even the trophy, the senior day, it was just overall, everything was amazing. The fans were awesome. Our families got to see that and share that with us. Just thinking about it now, it's just, wow, it's a good memory to have.
I love it. Yeah, and I love it so much, and wish you the best this weekend in Portland. I sure wish you were at home, but I know y'all will do awesome there, and look forward to seeing you again at home next week.
Thank you.
I want to thank Brooke Moeai so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly. Like Jessica said, we want to wish you guys the best of luck as you take the trip up to Portland. It's a weird. I was looking through some of the notes, and things are a little bit in Portland State's favor overall in the series, but we'll see what happens. Olivia Gray's a great pitcher, but the Wildcats, like you said, have really shown that they have the most potent offense in the conference. We'll see what they can do against a great matchup. So, B-Moe, Brooke Moeai, thank you so much. Wish you all the best of luck, and we'll see you back in Ogden in about a week.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Oh, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Thank you. Bye.
Man, wonderful. Guys, I'm so grateful that that B-Moe took a little bit of time to come on here and chat with us. It's always great. I mean, this whole season has been so much fun to interview some of these players and really take the time to get to know them, hear some of their stories, and watch them succeed. And I feel like, I mean, it feels like every single time that we've had a player on, we've got to learn a little bit more about them, and so it's kind of what the show is all about. So I want to thank them again, and thank the WSU softball staff for organizing these interviews for us, getting them all organized and set up. Really appreciate them. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about last weekend, right? Because we kind of ended the interview right there talking about last weekend and how big it was for the Wildcats to get not only a sweep but also to win the regular season conference tournament before having to set foot in Portland at all. Like the number 1 seed is secured, or at least to share the title. They've already got it. And so yeah, the Wildcats will once again be taking on the number 2 team like they did last weekend. But before we get there, let's talk about that number 2 team from last weekend. We talked a lot on the show about how the Hornets had a really potent offense. There is a lot of pop in that lineup, but man, this Wildcat pitching staff really showed out. I mean, the way I have it in the notes is the Hornets offense was basically neutered by the Wildcat pitching staff. They scored just 4 runs and they all came in a single inning against Arissa Henderson. I think it was like the 5th of the first game. And then they didn't score again the rest of the weekend. They didn't score again in the second game. They didn't score in the third game. They ended up getting swept. They got run ruled, like we just talked about with B-Moe, about how, they put up 8 and that was all they needed. So I don't know, guys, like what are you thinking? Like, did you expect the Wildcat pitching staff to, I mean, I think that we had hoped that they would be this good, but it felt like they kind of exceeded expectations the way that they held such a potent offense down.
I think I'd be wrong in saying that I expected this because I did not expect that.
Right.
But I mean, I probably should have. I mean, like, who better to? I think I said last week that the number 1 thing they had to do is not slip up on pitching, because if you slip up, that team is going to hit it over the fence. We're kind of talking about that. One of the best home run hitting. It's the best home run hitting team in the conference right now. And who better to pitch against them than Mo Ramirez, 16 strikeout Ramirez right there. Like, I'm like, phenomenal pitcher to go up against and, try to go up against Mo Ramirez and try to hit something over the fence. You know what I mean? And so I think that was super helpful, was just that ability to really pitch these mistake-free games almost. And I think that helps out a lot.
I don't know, Jessica, what about you? This pitching staff, like you said, like Simon was just saying there, Mariah Ramirez in the second game, shut him out. Absolutely phenomenal. When she is on, Mo is not. She's not necessarily like a power pitcher. She's very much a finesse pitcher. When she's hitting her spots, she is really difficult, and that's exactly what she was doing in that second game. She was hitting her spots, and they were, just dropping like flies. K's everywhere.
Yeah, I think I just going along with what Simon said, and we've said a few times this season, when our pitching game's on point, I think it helps carry us through because we've got some really stellar hitters. I think it helped to be at home. I think it helped to have the energy of the weekend. And Brooke wasn't kidding. Like, the crowd there Saturday was awesome. I do think there's also something to what you had mentioned pre-show, like, there's also something to prove with how loud their dugout is. I tell you what, it's like, okay, don't come in our house and act that way. So I think that like created a lot more competitive energy, like not in our house, y'all. So I think that all of that coming together, and then just like we tend to do throughout the season, when we start doing well, we, continue to do well. That first game scared me a little bit because I left right before the inning where they scored 4 points, and I looked down at live stats and I was like, what happened? Because like, it didn't look like we would ever get to that point. So it was good to see us close out, and just a heck of a weekend overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If I was watching the game on ESPN Plus, but you could hear the Sac State dugout in those first 2 games. Very loud, constantly, like there's lots of noise all the time. Like, okay. not sold out on the third day. I noticed. I felt like, losing 2 the previous day maybe took a little bit of wind out of their sails. Yeah, because it seemed like, they were ready. They felt like they were going to take a shot at at the best team in the conference. The Wildcats were in first place going into that weekend. Sac State was number 2. They were looking to make some ground on the Wildcats, especially knowing that the Wildcats would be taking the trip to Portland the following week, hitting the road and having to face Olivia Gray, which we'll talk about in a bit. But wow, I mean, I was really surprised at the way that the Wildcats handled Marissa Bertuccio, because Bertuccio did not pitch. I don't think she pitched more than 4 in either game that she pitched. I think she was maybe 3 in the first game and might have been maybe 4 in the second game on Saturday. Like, she did not, going into that game, she was maybe number 3 in the conference in ERA, but the Wildcats just, I don't know, it feels like they just seem to find a way to hit the ball on her. And she was chased early, and they actually ended up in the second game. They brought in Lexi Webb. Now, I can't remember who the reliever was in the first game that she pitched, but she actually did a decent job up to, like we talked about, that 6th, when it was like, oh, okay, Wildcats put up 2 more runs to go up 7-4, and that would be the final score. But I want to talk a little bit about that final game, because final game clinches the Big Sky regular season title. It's a run rule. It is the 3rd run rule game in the last 5 for the Wildcats. It feels like the offense is rolling in the way that, Brooke just talked about with us, how they really worked on that offense. Talk to me about how you're feeling about the offense, of course, going into this weekend with a tough pitching matchup, but then also next weekend facing who knows who the Wildcats will get in the first round, and your confidence in the bats, because that was the problem last year.
I think that was an extremely strong statement up against at Sac State, just run rolling in that last game. It is one of those things where obviously when the Wildcats have an opportunity to clinch, we call them the no quit cats and everything. If they have the opportunity to clinch or do anything like that, they're going to do it. And that's exactly what happened. I think one thing is you look at this offense and what they did to Marissa Bertuccio, who's still number 3 in the conference with ERA, but actually Moeai Ramirez is number 4 now, which is kind of cool. She's number 3 in the conference with ERA. And they have Lexi Webb, who's also in the top 10. And they just flat out were scoring over 6 on all of them. And, I mean, you look at Olivia Gray, and phenomenal pitcher, obviously. But I do not want to be Olivia Gray right now. That is a tough team to pitch against, and they just proved it as well as any team could have. So, yeah.
And just to build on that, like, we're going against Portland State. They do have the number 1 ranked hitter in the conference right now. But then when you look at the stats, then we have 5 ranked higher than their second best hitter at 20th. So when we look at the overall package, like, yeah, they're pulling in some real good offensive and defensive players, but we're talking the top. And then there's a pretty big gap, whereas we might not be, although I think pitching, we are top now, right? Arissa moved into number 1.
Now. Yep.
Yeah. So I just think we're not building an individual, we're building a team. And that's what makes us unique in Mary Kay Amacone's approach so special, right? I think this is our 6th consecutive title, like, because we build a team and we focus on continuing to build a team.
Yeah. So like we said, the Wildcats ended up run rolling the Hornets in the 3rd game. They get to hoist the trophy on senior day, the way we talked about with Brooke, which was a huge moment for that, senior class of Arissa Henderson, Brooke Moeai, Abby Sagert, and Chloe Camarero. Each of them will be graduating. So this will be their final seasons in a Wildcat uniform. But so a great moment, but the work's not done. Now looking forward to the series that we've had scheduled, circled on our schedules for all year, right? We've talked about this several times, about how this Portland State matchup was going to be big, that it was going to be interesting, that it would have interesting implications. And I think that it still does, even though the Wildcats have locked up the regular season title. Portland State, they're looking for something. They're going to be hungry, right? Because they want to hold on to that number 2 spot. And so I kind of looked at some of the numbers on kind of what this matchup could bring. Now having finally come to it and looked at their performances offensively, the Vikings are not a great team. I think that their strategy seems to be run prevention and score just enough runs to get through. But they're ranked number 6th in a 7-team league in offense this year. But they make up for it, like I said, with stellar defense. They've got the 3rd best defense in the league, and they've got a great pitcher in Olivia Gray, who they pitch often to. It feels like she's a big swing and miss pitcher. Like looking at her Ks, her strikeouts are impressive. So I wanted to ask you guys, which do you think is going to be the bigger factor here this weekend? Will the defense be able to contain this Wildcat offense and hold on, or will the offense not be able to keep up with the Wildcat offense in spite of the great defense that the Vikings do play?
I think that's one thing to look at is just like Vikings obviously have a great defense, but Wildcats also have a nearly perfect defense. You look at some of these errors and some of these fielding percentages, and they're just over 90% on almost every player. And that's one thing to look at is this is a matchup between 2 really great defenses. The one thing that I'm kind of nervous about is what Coach Amicone is going to do against this team, and kind of maybe I've kind of seen it as you look at the first part of the Super Bowl, right? And first part is never as good as the second half, right? Because the coaches then start to figure out what the other coach is doing, and they're just playing careful a little bit. And so one of the things that is interesting to me is I think Coach Amicone might hold back some parts of the offense a little bit more this weekend than she's going to do in the playoffs, just to see if she can figure out something. So I think that's one of the things with Portland State is they really have to look at this offense as an offense that's trying something new, because that's what I believe they'll do. I think it'll be hard for them to figure out what Weber State is doing offensively.
Jessica, your thoughts. Which do you think kind of is going to be a bigger factor, that Portland State defense or that Wildcat offense?
I think it's going to be close. So I'm going in confident. I'll say it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again in a minute. I think we'll come out with a series win. I like Simon's strategy that he's saying that we might play it safe for a minute to try to pull out some strategy. But when we look at fielding percentage, we're both ranked nationally, right? Farther down, I think we're 40 and Portland State might be 50, but we're right there together. Like Simon's saying, we're both at 97 something. So we're really good teams. So whenever I think about what this looks like, it could be a really low scoring game after we've come out of some rather high scores here. I was trying to go back and look at Idaho State to see just how much Olivia Gray pitched, how many innings, because I think that's going to be okay.
6. Okay. 11 earned runs, though.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
Her worst performance of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see, do we see comeback Olivia, or is she tired, right? Because she has carried the team a heck of a lot of games. So it's just, are we getting near the end and we're tired? So I think that there's a lot of factors that come into play. And I think that we still go in and we play for real because we got something to prove after last year. And I think it'll be good, but I would bet low scoring games is what I'm thinking. Unless we hit it out of the park, right? Because that's where they can't prevent it at that point.
Sure. Yeah, because I'm with you. Like what I have in here in the notes is the biggest question mark is going to be the play of Olivia Gray. Do we see her bounce back after easily her worst outing this season? 11 earned runs. Like that is the reason that Arissa Henderson is now the ERA leader in the conference, is because that 11 run outing. And I think it's interesting too, because they just rode with it. They just said, no, we're gonna keep going, and it doesn't matter. So Gray pitched 6 innings, 10 hits, 12 runs, 11 earned, 6 walks, 6 strikeouts. They had no intention of pulling her. They just said, we're going to ride it. And so that kind of gives us a glimpse of what Portland State might or might not do. Because I fully expect that the Wildcats are probably going to run into this Portland State team at some point. I don't know what the bracket looks like quite yet, but I wouldn't be surprised for the Wildcats to run into one of Portland State or Sac State at some point in the tournament, right? So Olivia Gray is kind of the big question mark here. I mean, she's pitched in some big games earlier in the season, but like we said, she got shelled on Saturday. And I think that the Wildcats will see her twice. I think they will see her in that first game on Friday. They will see her again on Saturday. So there will be 2 opportunities to face her, which, like you said, Simon, can be good because that's 2 more opportunities to figure out how are we going to pitch when the stakes are low, or how are we going to deal with this pitcher when the stakes are low, because we've already got the number 1 seed. It's house money. And so I kind of wanted to see like which direction you felt that the coaching staff would probably lean. Are they going to try and experiment? They're going to try and do some stuff, or are they going to say, you know what? Nope, we're just gonna try and shell her as I don't know. Like, what do you do if you're Coach Mary Kay Amicone?
That's one of those things that I remember when I was watching when I was over in Idaho doing the women's basketball coverage for the Big Sky, and it was a heartbreaking press conference to do. But I had to ask Coach Trisha Binford a question after they beat Weber State because it was Darian White had this phenomenal game, and I said, how important is it for big players to come up in big moments? And she quoted Danny Sprinkle, the men's coach, who said basically that the regular season is the coach's part of the season, and the playoffs are the players' part of the season. And so that's one of the things that I think is going to be really telling is if they do try to experiment with Olivia Gray, just because this is her part of the season now. You know, Portland State is going to rely on her in these big moments because she is without a doubt their big time player.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things. I really do think that, you know, we're going to see this a little bit of a coach's battle between Mary Kay Amicone and McWarther. Did I say that right? McWhorter? I think so. But yeah, that's what I'm excited for, is just to kind of see what that strategy is to just try to limit that player ability in the playoffs.
Last thing before we move on here, Jessica, you noted that the Vikings also have the best hitter in the conference in Logan Rickenback. Her numbers, I was looking at them. She's got the best batting average in the conference. I think she's hitting 396. But if you look at her numbers, they're really similar to Chloe Camarero's. Very close in nearly every statistical category, except for home runs. Chloe's got her beat by like four extra home runs, right? And a lot of that is due to the early success that Chloe had in out-of-conference play, right, where she was just hitting bombs like crazy. And so, but like you also noted, Jessica, there is a big gap between Logan Rickenback at number 1 and their next closest hitter at 20. And so I kind of wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you see that? Do you see it as imbalance in the lineup, in that like you've got one really dangerous hitter and then you've got a lot of really pedestrian hitters? Like, how do you see that? And if you're strategizing, like, how do you deal with one really potent hitter and then a bunch of folks who maybe aren't? Does it make you complacent? I don't know. How do you approach a lineup like that?
Well, how I would approach it, and clearly I'm going to guess Mary Kay Amicone won't do this because she has sense, is Logan's been prepping for Arissa to come out first. Throw in Mandy first game, right? Like, let's play with this a little bit. We've got 3 solid pitchers. I'm not worried about our pitching game. Logan could have a killer game, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in a whole lot of other people getting on base. We might, but I'm not worried about our pitching versus their hitting game. I think if we do end up losing games, it's on the other side with just their defense holding back our offense. But I'd go fun with it because I think that they're prepping for a certain thing, and I have enough faith in our pitching staff that I think we could throw anybody in game 1 and do just fine.
Yeah, it's a good point. Mandy Sink has not pitched in at least a week, maybe 2. I'd have to go back and check her last appearance, but yeah, it's been a while. Actually, her last appearance, well, did she pitch in the Utah game? Yeah,
yep.
I think she pitched in the Utah game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a little while. So I hear what you're saying, Jessica. It's like, listen, we've got a great staff. There and we've seen that Coach Amicone is willing to, like when she put Brooke Hatfield out there in the Utah game, to give her some experience against a very good, a tournament quality opponent, and say, listen, this is the big time. This is what it's like. And so I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see Coach Amicone doing the same this weekend. But Simon, what's your take on this Portland State offense?
Yeah, I think this offense is a little bit different just because, we look at Emily Johansson as number 20, but at the same time, it's still a 313 batting average. You know what I mean? Still a great batting average, and Olivia Dean as well, 293. I do see Portland State as kind of an imbalanced team, and that's what scares me so much about them, is because you can take some of these teams on any given night, and they'll rattle a cage. You have Olivia Gray right there, and then you have these hitters who can at least kind of do something. And if we look at slugging percentage and everything like that, they're not an extremely powerful team, so that is helpful in doing that. Not really on home runs as well. So that is a little bit of a comfort. But it is still one of those teams they're very scrappy. They are very scrappy. And the fact that they're number 2 in the conference proves that they can be pretty scrappy and pretty good on a consistent basis. So that's the thing that scares me about it, is we do see this imbalance in the lineup. But at the same time, especially come playoff time, big players show up in big moments. That's kind of one of those things. So always good to look out for.
Yeah, and it kind of depends, right? Like no Sac State games, the way that Sac State had their success in the 5th against Arissa Henderson in that first game to score 4 runs was these weird, I called them janky hits, where like they were getting these hits that were just over the defender into the, into the outfield just a little bit, just past the dirt, and it was just like, what are these hits, dude? Like these hits are so janky. Like, what is this? And so sometimes you could just get unlucky, it's an unlucky roll. And next thing you know, you're only up 1 run after you've spent the last 4 innings building up a lead. And so anything can happen. Well, we'll all look forward to this upcoming matchup. Like I said, we've had it circled on the calendar for a while. Really looking forward to kind of see how the Wildcats come out and kind of how they will deal with Olivia Gray, because like I said, I do believe they will see her again some point in the conference tournament. So now, folks, let's run to our game. We'll just do a couple of these really quick because we're running short on time. We're playing over-under. I've got some statistics here for our panel. See if they're interested in taking the over or taking the under on some of these. See if they're in a betting mood, in a risky mood. So let's start with the first one. The Wildcats are averaging 6.2 runs a game right now. Now, we talked about the effect that Olivia Gray can have on runs scored. I don't know, guys. You taking the over or the under on 6.2 runs per game this weekend against the Vikings? No, he's serious. He's serious.
I think we're over 6.2.
Over. He's taking the over. Look at Jessica's eyes.
I think we might be. That's a crazy take, but like after what we did, I mean, like we've had a couple 10-point games, like a lot of them. I haven't worked out the math yet, so I could be wrong on that one, and but
okay. Simon taking the over. Jessica, looking at your eyebrows, maybe not so confident.
I recognize that I might have yelled at Simon in previous podcasts that we're a team and we go together. I'm gonna go under. I still think we win the series. I'm going under.
I think I'm with Jessica on this one. I think it's under, but I think it's enough. I like seeing what I saw this weekend against Sac State. It really feels like this Wildcat squad does a great job of answering the bell when they get called. They show up in big moments, and I think they'll do that. So
here's my justification, because I think I need to clarify. I said that this was going to be a pitcher's battle against Sac State, and that clearly was not the case because they blew them out of the water. So I'm not capping this Wildcats team anymore. I said they'd have 2 more run rules this season, and then all of a sudden they get a third right there. I can't do it anymore. So yeah.
Well, and I'm with you because I also think Olivia Gray's not pitching all 3 games, right? So depending on what that second game looks like, it might bring that overall weekend average. I'm still going under, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk a little bit about wins, right? It's a 3-game series, and so I'm putting the over-under at 2.5. Wildcats win 2.5 games this weekend. You taking the over or the under?
I'm going under. I'm giving them a game. I think if we throw them off and we do something crazy and mix it up a little bit in that first game, we could throw them off and win 3. I think if we play like they expect us to play, we get 2.
Okay.
So
Simon, what about you?
They've just done so many things to me lately. Like I can't bet against them.
That's the optimist. Look at this.
I know. Look at this.
What is going on here?
Optimism. They've proven it to me. I'm gonna go under for right now. But
You're not committed to that under.
Under for right now, like it's gonna change in the future.
I don't feel comfortable saying it. Let's just say that much. I just don't feel comfortable saying it.
Okay. Let's see which on. I have a couple left here. Let's pick this last.
You have to tell us what you picked, Colby.
I'm going to take the under because I think that Coach Amicone is going to do some tinkering. I think we're going to see some folks get some playing time. I think the Wildcats probably win that second game where they don't have to face Olivia Gray. I think there's a good chance of that. But I do think that they probably get 1 from her. So I think probably 2 is where I'm at. But we will see. I thought that winning 2 would be absolutely phenomenal against Sac State, and they got all 3. Just blown away. So we'll see what happens. Final one. I had a question about Arissa Henderson. She's averaging 1.025 strikeouts per inning. Actually, I'm going to go here. Weaver's averaging 8.16 hits per game. Taking the over or the under on the 8.16 hits per game this weekend.
Yeah, we got this. I'm going over.
8 hits. She's taking the over. Okay. So above 8.1. What did I say? 8.16 hits. Simon, what about you?
I think there's only one, only going against Olivia Gray that I don't think we get that, but I think we get that on the other games. And I think we have games where we really bring up that average a bit. So yeah, I'm going to go over as well.
I'm not sure exactly how it works out with 8.16 hits and me going under on 6.2 runs, but it works out. I feel confident.
Yeah, it all comes out in the wash, right? All right. Well, I think I'm with you guys. I think I might take the 8. I don't know. Now I'm second guessing because that second game is screwing me up. I'm going to take the under. I think under 8.16 hits, but Wildcats get it done. I think that's going to have to mean bombs away.
I'm just writing this down now so I can call y'all on it next week.
Fair enough. Hey,
so
totally. Accountability is our friend. By the way, guys, I noticed looking at the stats, McKelmy Houston tied with Chloe Camarero for bombs. 10. Incredible. All right. Well, let's look at the upcoming schedule. It's short. Portland State this weekend, Friday, May 6th, at Portland State, 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That'll be on ESPN Plus, and then later the second game, 4:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, also on ESPN Plus. Then Saturday, the last game of the season, Saturday, May 7th, at Portland State, 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. It'll be on ESPN Plus, and the Wildcats get to come home. And the conference tournament will start in earnest on Wednesday, May 11th. That will be going from Wednesday, May 11th to Saturday, May 14th. And so I'm sure the bracket will take shape this weekend as other teams play, and we'll kind of figure out who the Wildcats will face. They will be the number 1 seed with just one conference loss. It makes it impossible for the Vikings to catch them. The Vikings currently 10-5. So even though the Wildcats lost a game, well, they didn't lose a game, but they did not get to play a game, I guess I should say, against Montana because of the weather, ultimately does not end up hurting them because they only lost one game. So good job to them. So we'll see what happens. But that's the upcoming schedule. Wrap up the show. WeaverStateWeekly@gmail.com. Email me, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I need to add TikTok to this. Patreon.com/WeaverStateWeekly. We want to thank our patrons for supporting us, helping us fund this operation, and keeping us in mind in not only when you're listening to your podcast, but also with your pocketbooks. Thank you all so much. And the blog, WeaverStateWeekly.com. Thank you to you all, Jessica, Simon, for hanging with me, doing these softball shows. We'll probably have a couple more. We'll be wrapping up next weekend, going into the tournament, and then there will probably be a tournament recap, and then come what may. So at least 2 more shows, folks, just to kind of see what happens. But thank you to both of you for taking some time to hang with me, talk softball, wrap up the show like we usually do. Weber State, Weber State.
Great.
Great.
Great. Go Wildcats.